The Galactic Combat Academy was a huge place with tall crystal towers that touched the purple sky of Station Prometheus. Inside this place, the best fighters from thousands of worlds came to train. They wanted to become the galaxy's top defenders. Every alien species had their own special powers. The Crithians could control plasma. The Vextor could move things with their minds. The Zalari could walk through walls. Then there was Emma Carter. She sat alone in the back row of her combat theory class. Her simple gray uniform looked plain next to the fancy armor her classmates wore. While other students showed off their powers easily, Emma could only watch. No energy came from her hands. No shields appeared around her body. No super strength ran through her blood. Human. Powerless, ordinary. Professor Kalik stood at the front of the class. He had 4 eyes that looked around the room. He said, "But today we will practice energy control. Find a partner. You know what to do." Students quickly paired up. They all avoided looking at Emma. She stayed in her seat and stared at her data pad. She pretended not to notice. "Looks like the human is alone again," Jake Morrison shouted from across the room. His laugh was loud. Several other students laughed too. "Why do you even come here, Carter? You can't do anything." Emma's jaw became tight, but she kept looking down. This happened all the time. 3 months at the academy taught her that staying quiet was easier than trying to defend herself. "Morrison, stop that," Professor Kalik said, but his voice did not sound strong. Even the teachers seemed unsure about Emma being there. "I will work with her," a quiet voice said. Emma looked up and saw Lisa Bennett walking toward her. Lisa was one of the few students who did not make fun of her. Emma thought it was probably pity, not real kindness. "Thanks," Emma said quietly. "Don't mention it." Lisa's hands started to glow with soft blue light. "Just try to keep up, okay?" The exercise started. Around the room, pairs of students fought in controlled practice. Energy weapons hit against defensive shields. Emma dodged and moved using only her physical reflexes. Lisa held back a lot, so weak. Someone whispered as Emma barely avoided a training shot. "How did she even get accepted here? I heard they needed to fill their human quota." Emma ignored the voices. She focused on her footwork and breathing. She thought about the math and physics in her head. She might not have powers, but she spent every free moment studying strategy, physics, and combat theory. Her mind was her only weapon. The class ended. Emma was very tired. Her classmates were barely out of breath. "Tomorrow we start arena trials," Professor Kalik said to everyone. "Each of you will face a combat test that will push you to your limits. I expect everyone to try their hardest." His eyes looked at Emma for a second. She could see the doubt on his face. "Class is over." As students left, Emma stayed behind. She stared at the training arena. The arena trials. The academy's biggest test. Students who failed were kicked out and sent home in shame. She pulled up the trial data on her pad. 20% of students failed. But for students without powers, there was no data. There had never been a powerless student who made it this far. "You should quit." Emma turned and saw Commander Helen Stone standing in the doorway. The human teacher was one of only 3 from Earth at the academy. Unlike Emma, Helen had super strength and fast reflexes. "I'm not quitting," Emma said firmly. "This isn't about pride, Carter. The arena trials are dangerous. Students have died there." Helen's face became softer. "You've already proven something by getting this far. There's no shame in knowing your limits." "With respect, Commander, I didn't come here to prove a point. I came here to become a defender." Emma picked up her things. "And I'm going to pass those trials." Helen watched her leave. There was worry in her eyes, but maybe respect too. Or maybe she just accepted what would happen. That night, Emma did not sleep. She watched every arena trial recording she could find. She studied patterns and looked for weaknesses in strong opponents. While her classmates used raw power, Emma would use something different: intelligence, strategy. And the one thing humans had plenty of: stubborn determination. The next morning came too fast. The Galactic Combat Academy was a huge place with tall crystal towers that touched the purple sky of Station Prometheus. Inside this place, the best fighters from thousands of worlds came to train. They wanted to become the galaxy's top defenders. Every alien species had their own special powers. The Crithians could control plasma. The Vextor could move things with their minds. The Zalari could walk through walls. Then there was Emma Carter. She sat alone in the back row of her combat theory class. Her simple gray uniform looked plain next to the fancy armor her classmates wore. While other students showed off their powers easily, Emma could only watch. No energy came from her hands. No shields appeared around her body. No super strength ran through her blood. Human, powerless, ordinary. Professor Kellick stood at the front of the class. He had 4 eyes that looked around the room. He said, "Today we will practice energy control. Find a partner. You know what to do." Students quickly paired up. They all avoided looking at Emma. She stayed in her seat and stared at her datapad. She pretended not to notice. "Looks like the human is alone again," Jake Morrison shouted from across the room. His laugh was loud. Several other students laughed too. "Why do you even come here, Carter? You can't do anything." Emma's jaw became tight, but she kept looking down. This happened all the time. 3 months at the academy taught her that staying quiet was easier than trying to defend herself. "Morrison, stop that," Professor Kalick said, but his voice did not sound strong. Even the teacher seemed unsure about Emma being there. "I will work with her," a quiet voice said. Emma looked up and saw Lisa Bennett walking toward her. Lisa was one of the few students who did not make fun of her. Emma thought it was probably pity, not real kindness. "Thanks," Emma said quietly. "Don't mention it." Lisa's hands started to glow with soft blue light. "Just try to keep up, okay?" The exercise started. Around the room, pairs of students fought in controlled practice. Energy weapons hit against defensive shields. Emma dodged and moved using only her physical reflexes. Lisa held back a lot. "So weak," someone whispered as Emma barely avoided a training shot. How did she even get accepted here? "I heard they needed to fill their human quota." Emma ignored the voices. She focused on her footwork and breathing. She thought about the math and physics in her head. She might not have powers, but she spent every free moment studying strategy, physics, and combat theory. Her mind was her only weapon. The class ended. Emma was very tired. Her classmates were barely out of breath. "Tomorrow we start arena trials," Professor Kalick said to everyone. "Each of you will face a combat test that will push you to your limits. I expect everyone to try their hardest." His eyes looked at Emma for a second. She could see the doubt on his face. Class is over. As students left, Emma stayed behind. She stared at the training arena. The arena trials. The academy's biggest test. Students who failed were kicked out and sent home in shame. She pulled up the trial data on her pad. 20% of students failed. But for students without powers, there was no data. There had never been a powerless student who made it this far. "You should quit." Emma turned and saw Commander Helen Stone standing in the doorway. The human teacher was one of only 3 from Earth at the academy. Unlike Emma, Helen had super strength and fast reflexes. "I'm not quitting," Emma said firmly. "This isn't about pride, Carter. The arena trials are dangerous. Students have died there." Helen's face became softer. "You've already proven something by getting this far. There's no shame in knowing your limits." "With respect, Commander, I didn't come here to prove a point. I came here to become a defender." Emma picked up her things. The arena was huge. It was a round room half a mile wide with walls that could create any environment. Rows of seats rose up around the combat zone. They were filled with students and teachers who wanted to watch the trials. Emma stood in the waiting room with 19 other first-year students. Each one looked confident. Jake Morrison was cracking his knuckles. Electricity jumped between his fingers. Lisa Bennett sat quietly and meditated. Her psychic power was visible. Others checked their armor, tested their weapons, or looked at their powers one more time. Emma checked her standard combat suit and the basic energy pistol all students got. No special changes. No power boosts. Just normal gear. In the hands of a powered student, it could become very powerful. In her hands, it was just a pistol. "First fighter, Jake Morrison," a voice said through the room. Jake smiled and walked toward the arena door. "Watch and learn, people. This is how you do it." The viewing screens turned on. They showed Jake entering the arena floor. The area around him changed and became a rocky canyon. 3 combat drones appeared. Each had plasma guns and shield makers. Jake did not wait. Lightning exploded from his hands and broke through the first drone's shields instantly. He moved with super speed, dodging plasma fire. His electrical attacks destroyed circuits and melted armor. In 90 seconds, all 3 drones were smoking on the ground. The crowd clapped loudly. Jake came out of the arena barely tired. He accepted congratulations from his friends, time 90 seconds. Rating excellent, Professor Calix announced. Next fighter, Lisa Bennett. One by one, students entered the arena and faced their trials. Lisa used her mind powers to crush her opponents. A Crithian student named Zara melted through obstacles with plasma heat. Each student showed off their raw power and natural ability. 20 minutes later, only one name was left. Final fighter, Emma Carter. The crowd's excitement died down. Curious whispers and doubt replaced it. Emma walked toward the entrance. Her heartbeat was steady even though 1,000 eyes watched her. Good luck, Lisa said quietly as Emma passed. The words seemed real, but Emma could hear doubt under them. Emma stepped onto the arena floor. The surface was smooth metal and cool under her boots. The walls rose around her like a steel sky. Arena setting city combat zone, the system said. The area changed. Suddenly, Emma stood on a fake city street. There were buildings, vehicles, and debris. The fake world was perfect, down to the smell of ozone and distant sounds of fighting. 3 combat drones appeared. These were different from the ones Jake faced. They had yellow warning stripes and advanced sensor systems. Warning, difficulty automatically changed for fighter ability level, the system stated. Threat level, maximum normal force allowed. Emma's stomach dropped. The arena's smart computer had looked at her lack of powers. It made her test harder by removing the limits it gave powered students. Her enemies would be faster, more aggressive, and fully deadly. The drones opened fire immediately. Emma dove behind a fake car as plasma shots tore through the air where she had stood. She rolled, got up running, and fired 3 quick shots from her pistol. All 3 hit, but the drone's shields absorbed them easily. Think, analyze, adapt. She ran down an alley. The drones followed. Their sensors tracked her movement. Their weapons never stopped firing. Emma's mind raced. She calculated paths and analyzed patterns, searching for any weakness. There. One drone flew slightly lower than the others to fit in the tight alley. Its shield maker was on its bottom, probably because its makers thought attacks would come from above or straight ahead. Emma stopped suddenly and dropped flat on her back. As the drone passed over her, she fired upward at close range. The shot hit the exposed generator and the shield went out. Her next 3 shots punched through its armor. It crashed to the ground, 2 left. The other drones changed instantly. They rose higher and split up to attack from different angles. Emma ran again, using the buildings as cover. She led them through the fake city's winding streets. In the watching room, the crowd sat in shocked silence. "What is she doing?" someone asked. "Running away," Jake said with disgust. "Typical." But Commander Stone leaned forward. Her eyes got narrow. "No, she's planning." Emma reached a crossroads and stopped. She had seen this formation in one of the training videos. The buildings here made a fake canyon. If she positioned herself right, she fired at a support beam on the building to her left. The beam was weak from fake decay. It collapsed. The building began to fall. Its upper floors leaned inward. Emma fired at the opposite building, doing the same thing. The 2 drones were tracking her from above. Suddenly, they were caught between 2 falling buildings. They tried to fly away, but their own speed worked against them. The fake debris crushed them both. The arena became silent. Emma stood in the ruins, breathing hard. Her pistol was raised. The fake world flickered and disappeared. The arena returned to normal. Time 4 minutes and 37 seconds, the system announced. All targets destroyed. Trial passed. The silence continued for 1 heartbeat. Then 2. Then Professor Calix's voice cut through the shock. Very unusual method. But it worked. "Carter, you pass." Some clapping started. It was hesitant and uncertain. Emma walked toward the exit. Her legs shook, and "I'm going to pass those trials." Helen watched her leave. There was worry in her eyes, but maybe respect too. Or maybe she just accepted what would happen. That night, Emma did not sleep. She watched every arena trial recording she could find. She studied patterns and looked for weaknesses in strong opponents. While her classmates used raw power, Emma would use something different: intelligence, strategy, and the one thing humans had plenty of: stubborn determination. The next morning came too fast. The mood changed after Emma's trial, not to acceptance but to something more complex. Her classmates no longer ignored her, but they did not welcome her either. Instead, they watched her with confusion and anger, as if her success was an insult to the natural order. "She got lucky," Jake said during lunch. He spoke loud enough for Emma to hear. "The arena must have broken." 4 minutes, though, another student said. "That's faster than some powered students, because it gave her weaker opponents. Did you see those drones? Basic models. I faced military-grade units." Emma kept her head down and focused on her food. Let them explain it however they wanted. She had passed, and that was what mattered. That afternoon, all first-year students were called to the main hall. Professor Kalik stood at the front. His expression was serious. "Congratulations on finishing your arena trials," he began. "You have proven yourselves worthy of staying here. However, your next challenge will test your judgment and problem-solving skills, not your combat abilities." A hologram appeared above the hall. It showed a rotating image of an old space station. "This is Research Station Alpha 7 in the Helix Nebula. 3 weeks ago, all communication stopped. Automated systems show no hull breaks, no life support failures, and no outside threats. Yet the crew of 40 scientists has vanished with no explanation." The image zoomed in. It showed dark corridors and empty workstations. "Your job is to investigate in teams of 4. Each team will board the station, find out what happened, and recover the research data from the main computer. This is not a training exercise. This is a real mission with real dangers." Excited whispers filled the room. A real mission in their first year was almost never done. Teams have been assigned based on skills that work well together. Professor Kalix continued. He began listing names. Emma waited, getting more worried with each team announced. Finally, near the end of the list, she heard her name. Team 7, Emma Carter, Jake Morrison, Lisa Bennett, and Greg Palmer. Emma's heart sank. Jake Morrison, of course. The universe had a sense of humor. Jake's face showed disgust. "You've got to be kidding me. I'm stuck with the powerless human?" "The assignments are final," Professor Kalix said firmly. "Each team has been carefully balanced. You will learn to work together, or you will fail together." After the meeting, Team 7 gathered in an empty classroom. The mood was tense. Greg Palmer was a quiet student who could control machines with his mind. He spoke first. "We should plan our approach. Station Alpha 7 has 4 main sections: living area, laboratories, engineering, and command. If we split up, we can cover more ground." "Splitting up in a possibly dangerous place is not smart," Emma said. "We don't know what happened to the crew. We should stay together." Jake turned on her. "Nobody asked for your opinion, Carter. You're dead weight on this mission. The only reason you're here is because the Academy is too politically correct to kick you out." "Actually," Lisa said quietly, "Emma has the highest grades in tactical analysis in our year." Jake blinked. "What?" I checked the rankings. "In combat, she's obviously last. But in every theory class, every strategy simulation, she scores in the top 5%. Lisa looked at Emma with new interest. "How do you do that without powers?" Emma shrugged. "I study. While you're all practicing your abilities, I'm reading every tactical manual I can find." "Studying doesn't matter when something is trying to kill you," Jake shot back. "No, but it helps you avoid situations where things try to kill you in the first place." Emma pulled up a hologram showing the station plans. "Look at the layout. The living section is closest to the escape pods. If there was an emergency, that's where the crew would have gone. But the pods are all still there." Greg leaned forward. "So they didn't try to escape. Which means either they couldn't or they didn't know they needed to." Emma highlighted several sections. "The laboratories have biological research facilities. The timing of the disappearance matches their quarterly review. I would bet money something went wrong during an experiment." "That's just guessing," Jake argued. "It's an educated guess based on the facts we have." Emma met his glare steadily. "We should focus on investigating the labs, but carefully. Whatever happened there might still be active." Greg nodded slowly. "That actually makes sense." Jake looked like he wanted to argue more, but Lisa stopped him. "We leave in 3 days. Emma, can you make a detailed mission plan based on your analysis?" "Already working on it." Over the next 3 days, Emma barely slept. She gathered every piece of information about Research Station Alpha 7. She cross-checked similar incidents and built backup plans for 17 different situations. Her room became a command center with walls covered in holographic displays and data streams. On the second night, Lisa stopped by. "You don't have to prove yourself this hard," she said, looking at the organized chaos. "Yes, I do." Emma did not look up from her work. Every single person at this academy thinks I don't belong. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am crazy for being here without powers. But if I'm going to fail, it won't be because I didn't try hard enough. Lisa was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I don't think you're crazy. Different, yes, but not crazy. That's not much comfort. It's not supposed to be. It's just the truth. Lisa moved to leave, then stopped. Jake's an idiot, but he's not wrong about everything. This mission is dangerous. People could die. Are you ready for that? Emma finally looked up. Are you? Lisa smiled slightly. Fair point. The morning they left arrived. Team 7 met in the shuttle bay. Each member wore full combat gear. Emma carried her standard equipment, energy pistol, basic armor, communication gear, and a backpack full of supplies she had carefully chosen. Mission brief has been uploaded to your personal systems, Commander Stone said. Remember, this is not a training exercise. You will face real danger. Trust your teammates, trust your training, and trust yourselves. Good luck. The shuttle door closed behind them. Through the window, Emma watched the academy get smaller as they launched toward the Helix Nebula, toward Research Station Alpha 7. Toward whatever nightmare waited in its silent corridors. Jake sat across from her with his arms crossed, glaring. If you get us killed with your powerless incompetence, I swear I'll haunt you. Emma smiled grimly. Get in line. Research Station Alpha 7 appeared before them like a tomb. Its angular structure slowly rotated against the Helix Nebula. The famous space formation painted everything in swirls of purple and blue. The station's windows were dark. Its outside lights flickered irregularly. Reading no active weapon signals, Greg reported from the pilot seat. Life support appears to work, but I'm not detecting any life signs. Could be a sensor problem, Lisa suggested. Or whatever happened to the crew killed them all, Jake added helpfully. Emma studied the station through the window. She noted the positions of the docking ports, the emergency hatches, and the solar panels. Bring us in through docking port 3. It's closest to the laboratory section, and the corridors from there connect to all major areas. Jake rolled his eyes but did not argue. They had agreed before launch that Emma would handle navigation and tactical planning. The others would deal with direct threats. The shuttle docked with a hollow sound that echoed through the airlock. The team suited up and checked weapons and equipment one final time. Standard sweep formation, Emma said. Jake and Lisa up front, Greg in the middle watching systems. I'll cover our back and watch for dangers. Look who thinks she's in charge, Jake muttered, but he took his position. The airlock opened. It showed the station's interior. Emergency lighting made everything dim and red. The corridor stretched ahead, eerily silent except for the hum of life support. They moved forward carefully. The living section was first. What they found there was disturbing. The crew quarters were empty but not abandoned. Meals sat half-eaten on tables. Personal items were scattered casually, as if their owners had just stepped out. A child's toy lay in one hallway, still playing a soft song. This is wrong, Lisa whispered. It's like they all just vanished in the middle of whatever they were doing. Greg's hand glowed faintly as he connected with a nearby computer. Last log entry was 17 days ago. Dr. Catherine Wright, head of alien biology. She mentions completing phase 3 of an experiment called Project Refraction, but the details need higher clearance. Can you access it anyway? Emma asked. Give me a minute. Greg's eyes lost focus as he went deeper into the system. Got it. Project Refraction was studying a crystal organism found on planet HD 199733b. The crystals showed properties of both life and non-life. They existed in a quantum superposition until observed. English, please, Jake said. They were experimenting with something that breaks normal rules of reality, Emma translated. This is getting worse. They moved deeper into the station. The laboratories were even more disturbing. Equipment was still running. Experiments were in progress, but no one was there to watch them. In Lab 3, they found a containment room with the door open and nothing inside. This is where they kept the crystals, Greg said, reading the labels. Whatever was in here is gone. A sound echoed through the station. A crystal chime, musical and eerily beautiful. The team froze. Tell me someone else heard that, Jake said quietly. Northeast corridor, Emma said, checking her display. About 50 meters. They moved toward the sound. As they turned a corner, they saw it. The corridor ahead was changed. Crystal structures grew from the walls, floor, and ceiling. They broke the emergency lights into 1,000 dancing colors. The crystals pulsed with internal light, creating patterns that seemed almost alive. Beautiful, Lisa breathed. Don't touch anything, Emma warned. Greg, what are we looking at? Greg's senses reached toward the crystals. His eyes went wide. They're not just growing. They're transmitting. It's like a massive data network, but the information is encoded in ways I've never seen. Where's the crew? Jake demanded. His hands crackled with electricity. That's when Emma saw it. Within the largest crystal formation there were shapes, human shapes perfectly preserved within the clear structure. She recognized one from the mission files. Dr. Catherine Wright. Her face was frozen in wonder, not fear. They're in the crystals, Emma said, her voice hollow. The crew didn't disappear. They were absorbed. We need to leave, Lisa said. Now, they started backing away. The crystals began to pulse faster. More chiming sounds filled the air, coming from all directions. They're growing, Greg reported. Fast, the crystals are spreading through the station. Emma's mind raced. The mission was clear. Recover the data from the central computer. But the central computer was in the command section. To reach it, they would have to go deeper into the station, toward the heart of the crystal growth. We can still abort, Jake said. For once, he was not being mean. He was genuinely scared. Emma looked at the crystallized crew members. 40 people who came here to expand human knowledge, now trapped in an alien structure that rewrote biology and physics. The mission briefing mentioned the research data includes information about dozens of other alien discoveries, Emma said. If we leave without it, and if these crystals somehow spread beyond this station, we'll have lost our only chance to understand them. You want to go deeper? Jake stared at her. Are you insane? Probably. But I'm also right. Emma pulled up the station map. There's an emergency access shaft that bypasses most of the infected areas. We use that to reach the command center, download the data, and use the emergency protocols to seal this section of space. Lisa studied the map. That shaft is narrow. Our powers won't be as effective in a tight space. But physical movement and strategic thinking will be, Emma responded. It's our best chance. Greg and Lisa looked at each other. Finally, Lisa nodded. I trust her judgment. You're all crazy, Jake said. But he did not argue more. They found the access shaft on the station's lower level. It was narrow, barely wide enough for one person to crawl through. There were small alcoves where they could rest. Emma went first. The shaft was dark, lit only by her helmet light. The metal walls pressed close on all sides. Behind her, she could hear the others following. Their breathing echoed in the tight space. They were halfway to the command center when the crystals found them. Emma's light caught a glint ahead. Then another. Crystal growths were spreading through the shaft, blocking their path forward. Behind them, she heard Jake curse as more crystals appeared, cutting off their retreat. They were trapped. The crystal growths closed in from both directions. Their surfaces reflected the team's helmet lights in rainbow arrays. The musical chiming got louder. It echoed through the metal shaft until Emma's teeth hurt. We're boxed in, Jake said. His voice was tight with panic. We're going to end up like those scientists. Everyone stay calm, Emma said, though her own heart was pounding. Let me think. Think faster, Greg urged. The crystals behind them were less than 3 meters away now and growing visibly. Emma's mind raced through everything she had read about the experiments. Quantum superposition, observation affecting state. The crystals existed between matter and energy until forced to choose. Greg, can you connect with the station's sensors from here? Maybe. Why? The research notes said observation collapses their quantum state. They tested it with direct visual observation. But what about other forms of detection? Greg's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to hit them with sensor sweeps. Force them to become fully matter or fully energy. And if they become energy, they might disappear. If they stay matter, they can't grow. Emma pulled up her tactical pad. Lisa, I need you to create a mental barrier behind us. Buy us time. Jake, when Greg makes them unstable, hit them with everything you have. That might work, Greg said slowly. Or it might trigger a chain reaction that destroys the entire shaft. Do we have a better option? The silence was her answer. Lisa's eyes glowed as she created a mental barrier behind them. The advancing crystals hit it and slowed but did not stop. They began growing through the barrier like roots through soil. Greg pressed his hands against the shaft wall. His machine control abilities connected with the station's systems, flooding the area with high-frequency sensor pulses. Now the crystals ahead shook violently. Their perfect shapes began to blur, shifting between solid matter and pure energy. For a moment, they seemed to exist in multiple states at the same time. "Now, Jake," Emma shouted. Jake released his electrical power. Lightning filled the narrow shaft, making the air super hot. Emma's suit's system screamed warnings as the temperature rose. The energy struck the unstable crystals, and they exploded in a shower of light and heat. When Emma's vision cleared, the path ahead was open, though burned and twisted. "Move," she yelled. They scrambled forward through the damaged section. Behind them, Lisa's barrier finally failed, and the crystals rushed forward. The team emerged into a maintenance alcove barely large enough for all four of them. "Which way?" Jake gasped. Emma checked her pad. The display was damaged from the blast. It flickered inconsistently. "Up 2 levels, then east." "I think." "You think?" "The map's corrupted. I'm working from memory." They climbed using maintenance ladders that groaned under their weight. The crystals followed, always just a few meters behind. Their chiming song grew louder and more complex. Emma had the disturbing feeling that the crystals were learning, adapting to their tactics. They reached the command level and found the door sealed. "Greg, can you override it?" Emma asked. "I can try, but it'll take time." His hands glowed as he worked. The crystals emerged from the shaft below, spreading across the walls toward them. "We don't have time," Lisa said. Her mental powers reached out, trying to slow the growth, but there was too much. For every crystal she stopped, 2 more appeared. Jake's electricity struck the door lock, melting it. Old-fashioned method. They fell through into the command center. The room was circular with computer stations around a central holographic display, and everywhere, covering every surface, were crystals. But these were different. They pulsed with organized patterns like neurons firing in a vast brain. The absorbed crew members stood within the largest formations. Their bodies were perfectly preserved. Their eyes were open and aware. Emma realized with horror that they were not dead. They were still conscious, still thinking, now part of something larger than themselves. "The computer core is in the center," Greg said. "Under all that, can you still access it?" Emma asked. "I can try." Greg stepped forward. His senses reached out. The moment he touched the crystal structure, his body seized. His eyes went wide. Emma saw crystal formations beginning to spread from the contact point up his arm. "Greg!" Lisa grabbed him, but the crystals were spreading to her, too. Emma made a split-second decision. She grabbed Jake's arm. "Hit the structure. Maximum power. Do it now. That'll kill them. They're already dying. But if we can disrupt the network, we might sever the connection." "Do it." Jake hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then he unleashed everything he had. Lightning erupted from his hands in a continuous stream, striking the central crystal formation. The structure lit up from within. Every crystal conducted the electrical energy throughout its entire mass. Greg and Lisa shook as electricity ran through the crystals, touching them. Then suddenly the crystals shattered. Not just the ones touching them, but all the crystals in the room exploded at the same time into tiny fragments. Emma was thrown backward by the blast. Her head hit the wall and stars exploded across her vision. When her sight cleared, she saw Greg and Lisa lying motionless on the floor. Smoke rose from their suits, but they were breathing. The crystallized crew members stood exposed now. The structures that held them had collapsed into dust. Dr. Wright's eyes were open but unfocused. Whatever consciousness had existed within the crystal network was gone now. "The computer!" Emma gasped, struggling to her feet. "Jake, help me!" Together, they accessed the central terminal. The data was intact, protected by multiple backup systems. Emma started the download protocol. Her hands were shaking. "Downloading," the system announced. Estimated time 3 minutes. An alarm began to sound. The station shook. "What did we do?" Jake asked. Emma checked the status display. Her blood ran cold. The crystals were integrated into the station's structural systems. When they shattered, they damaged the hull. "The station is breaking apart. How long?" "Maybe 5 minutes. And the download takes 3. Jake looked at the unconscious forms of Greg and Lisa. "We'll never make it back to the shuttle carrying them." Emma was already thinking. The shuttle was too far. But the escape pods? The living section had escape pods, and they were closer. If they could reach them in time. "Download complete," the system announced. Emma grabbed the data core and stuffed it into her pack. Help me with them. They each took one of their unconscious teammates. Emma carried Greg over her shoulder. Her muscles screamed under his weight. She might not have superhuman strength, but months of training had given her more endurance than she ever thought possible. The station groaned around them as they ran. Sections of corridor were already exposed to vacuum where the hull had failed. They navigated by emergency lighting and Emma's memory of the station layout. They took turns when alarms showed dangerous areas ahead. They reached the living section. 3 escape pods remained in their docks. Get them inside, Emma ordered. I'll set the launch sequence. What about the station's crew? Jake asked, helping Lisa into a pod. Emma looked at him. They both knew the truth. The crew's bodies were still alive, but their minds were gone. They were effectively brain dead. We can't save them, Emma said quietly. They sealed Greg and Lisa into the first 2 pods and climbed into the third together. The station shook violently. Through the window, Emma could see sections of the structure tearing away. Launch sequence started. The pod's computer announced. 10 seconds. The countdown seemed to take forever. Then explosive bolts fired, and the pod shot away from the dying station. Emma watched through the window as Research Station Alpha 7 tore itself apart. Pieces spun off into the nebula. 40 people gone. Countless research data lost. But the information about the crystals, about the danger they represented, was safe in Emma's pack. Beside her, Jake was silent. His face was pale. You did good back there, Emma said quietly. I electrocuted our teammates. You saved their lives. They'll recover. Emma hoped she was right. I thought you were useless, Jake said after a long moment. The powerless human who didn't belong. But back there, when everything went wrong, you were the only one who kept thinking clearly. You got us out. We got us out. Together. Emma managed a tired smile. That's what a team does. 3 hours later, an Academy rescue ship picked up their pods. Greg and Lisa were rushed to the medical bay. Doctors told the team they would make full recoveries. The crystal contamination had left their bodies before causing permanent damage. Emma and Jake were questioned by Commander Stone and Professor Calix. Team 7 recovered the research data and escaped with no deaths, Commander Stone said, reviewing their report. Under circumstances that would challenge even experienced agents. I'm recommending you both for awards. What about the station crew? Emma asked. Professor Calix's expression became serious. Their bodies can be recovered, but the brain damage is permanent. They'll be returned to their families. He paused. The data you recovered has detailed information about these crystal entities. Because of your actions, we can now develop ways to prevent this from happening again. After the questioning, Emma returned to her room. She was exhausted. She wanted nothing more than to sleep for a week. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Lisa stood there, looking tired but alive. Hey, mind if I come in? How are you feeling? Like I got hit by lightning. Which I guess I did. Lisa sat down heavily. I wanted to thank you for making the hard call back there. If you had hesitated, if you had tried to find a safer way, we would all be dead. I'm just glad it worked. It worked because you understood something the rest of us didn't. We were so focused on our powers, on what made us special, that we forgot the most important thing. Working together, using what each person brings to the table, Lisa smiled, even someone without powers. Over the following weeks, something changed at the Galactic Combat Academy. News of Team 7's mission spread. With it came a new perspective on Emma Carter. She was not mocked anymore. Students still did not fully understand her, but they respected her. Some even came to her for tactical advice. Jake Morrison publicly apologized. It was awkward but sincere, and when the second-year training assignments were posted, Emma found herself at the top of the tactical specialization track. She stood in front of the training arena where she had proven herself months ago. She remembered the fear and determination of that day. A lot had changed since then, but the core of who she was remained the same. Human, powerless, ordinary, and yet somehow exactly where she belonged. Carter. She turned to see Greg and Lisa approaching along with Jake and several other students. We're heading to the tactical simulation room, Lisa said. Want to show us some of those famous strategies of yours? Emma smiled. Sure, but try to keep up, okay? As they walked together through the academy halls, Emma thought about everything that had happened. She had come here believing she had to prove herself against impossible odds. But she had learned something more important. True strength was not about having powers. It was about knowing when to lead, when to trust, and when to do what needed to be done no matter how difficult. The galaxy needed defenders with amazing abilities. But it also needed people who could think, plan, and make the hard decisions when everything went wrong. It needed people like her. And for the first time since arriving at the Galactic Combat Academy, Emma Carter felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The classroom they entered was filled with holographic displays showing different battle scenarios. Emma walked to the main console and pulled up a complex tactical situation. A space station under siege, multiple attack vectors, limited resources, the kind of problem that would stump most students. "This is from the advanced third-year curriculum," Greg said, looking at the display. "Are you sure?" "I've been studying it for fun," Emma said. She began breaking down the scenario, showing them patterns they had not seen, weaknesses in the enemy formation, ways to use limited resources for maximum effect. Her classmates watched, fascinated as she turned what seemed like an impossible situation into a winnable one. "That's brilliant," Lisa said. "But how did you see all that?" "Practice, study, and maybe thinking a little differently because I have to." Emma looked at her friends. "You all have these incredible powers, but sometimes that makes you rely on them too much. When you can't use your powers or when the enemy is stronger than you need something else. Strategy, adaptability, teamwork." Jake nodded slowly. "That's what saved us on the station. When our powers were not enough, you had a plan." They spent the next 2 hours working through tactical scenarios. Emma showed them how to think like a strategist, how to see the battlefield as a puzzle to be solved rather than a contest of raw power. Her classmates, who had once mocked her weakness, now listened to every word. As the session ended and students filed out, Commander Stone appeared in the doorway. She had been watching from the back of the room. "Carter, a word?" Emma approached the human commander. Helen Stone's expression was unreadable. "I told you to quit before the arena trials," Helen said. "I was wrong," Emma blinked, surprised. "Commander? I looked at you and saw your limitations. I forgot to look at your strengths." Helen handed Emma a datapad. "The Academy is establishing a new program, Strategic Operations and Tactical Analysis. They want someone to help develop the curriculum, someone who understands that strength is not just about powers." Emma looked at the pad. It was an invitation to join the teaching staff as a junior instructor while completing her studies. "Me? Teach? You already are. I watched you in there." Those students were not just learning tactics. They were learning to think differently. That's rare and valuable. Helen smiled slightly. "Besides, the galaxy needs more defenders like you, people who can lead when powers are not enough." Emma looked at the pad again. 6 months ago, she had walked into this academy, believing she had to prove she could survive despite her lack of powers. Now she was being asked to teach others that survival meant more than just raw strength. "I accept," she said. Helen nodded. "Good, classes start next month. Don't be late." As Commander Stone left, Emma stood alone in the tactical simulation room. The holographic display still showed the battle scenario she had been teaching. Complex, difficult, but not impossible. Never impossible. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. The mockery, the doubt, the arena trial, the deadly mission to Research Station Alpha 7. Every challenge had seemed insurmountable. But she had faced each one with the only weapons she had: her mind, her determination, and her refusal to give up, and somehow, it had been enough. Emma Carter walked out of the simulation room and into the corridor. Students passed by, some nodding respectfully, others calling out greetings. She was no longer the powerless human who did not belong. She was simply Emma, a student and soon-to-be instructor at the Galactic Combat Academy. Human, powerless, ordinary, and extraordinary in all the ways that truly mattered. The end.